Chad Daybell's son-in-law, Emma's husband, he took the stand and he was giving the same rebellious, bucking authority energy that Emma and really everyone else in that family's been giving so far. We're going to talk about some of the highlights from his testimony in today's video. Yo, I want to give a shout out and thank you to Merge Dragons for working with me on this video. So y'all already know that I love these games, right? Absolutely. Now also, I absolutely love the entire vibe of like magical lands, fairy tales, dragons, like that kind of thing. That was my entire thing growing up. So there's like a big level of nostalgia to that for me. So this right here, I absolutely love that. Merge Dragons sold immediately, right? But now here's the thing. So I'm doing a lot of traveling right now, and I was like, you know what? I'm getting ready to be in the car for 4 hours as a passenger. I'm getting ready to kick back and play this game, and let me tell you what, y'all. The time flew by. I also had so much fun with this when we got to where we were going to the mountains. I was playing this constantly, y'all. Sitting in bed, tinkering on the phone, doing all that. It was so much fun. Hey, what's up? Sofa man, what's up? We're all going down to the pool. Why are you still sitting here on the couch? I'm over here working. I'm reporting live from the damn sofa. Can I help you? Dude, come on, we're all going down to the pool. Just put that down for a minute. Come on, come on, come on. Let's go, let's go, let's go. I've got too much to do right now. Y'all go ahead down there. I'll be down there when I finish, I promise. Yeah, I'll be down there all right after I beat this next level of Merge Dragons. Sofa man, we've all been at the pool. Dude, why are you here? You're on the bed. You were supposed to come down. Everybody's down there. They're getting ready to go back. Oh, no. I'm just resting my eyes for a minute. I was just tired from all the reporting from the sofa. I was just tired. Yeah. You're in for the night. You're in for the night. No, I'll be back down. I swear I will be down in a minute. I gotta rest my eyes for one more second. I'm just tired from all that work. Look, just call us. Come down when you're ready to party. All right. Bye-bye. Yeah, I'll be down after I get past level 3. But also, and this is one thing I love about it, the visuals, the vibe, all that, being up in like the Smoky Mountains, that vibe, it just all played together. And I absolutely had a blast with this. Okay, so what is Merge Dragons? It is a free to play mobile game that is available on all devices. You can merge dragon eggs, trees, treasure, stars, magical flowers, even the dragons themselves. The fun part of it is you're helping heal the land. So you're gonna like combine eggs to create a dragon to help heal the land. It's all very cool. It's all very neat. It's all very unique. And speaking of unique, there's like 500 plus unique dragons. I love all the extra levels that you can play in the game and all these little notes that come up that tell you like little hints to do and stuff like that. And the secret reminders, I think this is so cute. Now for me also, the gameplay is very at ease. It's very relaxing. I really enjoy that dynamic of it and the colors. So you can grow your camp in this, which is really cool. And you can collect and merge bounty to foster these dragons and just keep growing and growing and make it bigger and bigger. It's really up to you, and I love that part. So like, download Merge Dragons for free. Again, free by clicking the link in the description, or you can go ahead and scan the QR code. Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the sofa. Sofa's still here. I'm still sitting on it. And Roscoe is right here. He's in vacation mode. Although vacation mode is coming to an end later today, or this evening I should say. We're still in Asheville, North Carolina. We have absolutely loved it here, and I've been still following a lot of the footage from the Daybell trial. And so today what I want to talk about is his son-in-law taking the stand, and a few of the highlights with that, not only about what he was saying but his attitude on there. To me, it is very interesting, this attitude that we see about the way that him and Emma and Garth and really all of them feel towards cops. So we're going to get into it as we watch the clips. Now if you're new here, or if you're not new here, we're going to do this in the style of me putting up some clips from the testimony, from the case, the trial, that I found relevant as talking points, and I'm just going to kind of react to them. Now, before we get started, if you want to follow Roscoe and I outside the old YouTubes, we're on the Instagram. It's on the screen. It's in the description. Go on, give it a follow. Now, let's go ahead and get to that first clip.
And at that point, when you went in to see Tammy, did you observe anything unusual?
Well, earlier in the day, she was exhausted. but
All right,
she
now,
seemed more
I want you to
exhausted.
stop there.
Okay.
When you said
Hold on.
earlier in the day,
There is a lot of talking over the top of each other, and I know this is difficult for the court reporter. So both Mr. Pryor and the witness, Mr. Murray, please just talk one at a time. Thank
Okay.
you.
and Joe, what I was getting at, as you had mentioned earlier in the day, you had mentioned something about her physical condition. About what time was that?
That was around 2, almost 3 o'clock when I went to go get the truck
And where did you go get the truck?
from the school.
And that was the same day that she was working on the book fair. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did you happen to observe her lifting any boxes or anything unusual at that point?
I did.
What did you observe?
She was carrying around several scholastic school book boxes that are probably about this big, that were pretty heavy.
And you had mentioned that she looked, I don't want to put words in your mouth. How did you describe her appearance at that point?
She seemed exhausted and exasperated.
And exasperated for what reason?
She just didn't seem like she was feeling well.
Okay, here's one thing that is so prevalent to me that was interesting to hear. And when I say, I know that he's technically family, but I'm talking like the difference between like blood family, right? Now, obviously, he's still, this gentleman is married to Emma. They have children together. They have taken over Chad Dable's house. So they moved in there. They are one of the family members that received $8,000. We also saw Emma talking to Chad when he was basically getting arrested. He was detained on the day they found the children's bodies. So one thing to keep in mind as we're listening to that is just the familial dynamics going on here, but also the same story. Oh, she was not doing very well. Speaking of Tammy, oh, she was struggling with these boxes. Oh my God. Anyone that you talk to outside the family, she's fine. Seemed fine to me. Chad Dable's own mother takes the stand. Depending on when you're seeing this video, I would have already put my video out on her testimony or not, but we'll talk very quickly here. When asked, she saw her, 5 days before she passed away? She was fine. See where I'm going with this? But people who are in this clique with Chad, family, whatever you want to call it, friends and whatnot, oh, she could barely carry these boxes. Oh, she was bad. Here's the thing, and I've said this 100 times over with all this, and I hope that the jury sees this, and again, depending on when you're watching this, it could have already come out with a verdict or not, but I'm recording it before there's been a verdict, obviously. It's the fact that I look at myself, I'm mid-40s, right? Okay, so I have arthritis, and some of my joints, general health, stuff going on. Nothing major though, right? Go to the gym 5 times a week. Have to kind of make sure that I, adhere to that. Now, the only reason I'm saying all this is this. However, there's some things that if you're like, Paul, could you go do blank? I could be like this. I'm like, I just got back from the gym, but there's absolutely no way I could bend down and clean out the refrigerator. Like my hips won't do it. Can go to the gym and bench press. Can't do that. So you see what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about, and I feel like that's just normal as you get older, where your body shifts and changes, your endurance level changes and does these type things. And I feel like what Chad has done is he's convinced all of them, number one, anything she was doing was, oh, poor, she's on her way out. She could barely carry these boxes. When they're talking about the boxes, I'm like, I probably would have an issue too. I would be winded too, even though I could have just been like, yep, did my cardio at the gym this morning. You see what I'm saying? Different things affect different people differently. You might be able to do A, B, and C, and it would seem like you can do D and F without blinking, but those affect you differently. And I just feel like that's normal. So the things that they're describing Tammy experiencing and that she was so bad off, I'm like, no. I think that she was just having a normal reaction to this on top of the fact that it seems like she did everything. You know what I'm saying? It was like Chad was writing these little books, he was self-publishing, that she was running his publishing company. So that's the part that really, honestly, it just kind of ticks me off, because they're all getting up here, and then even the son-in-law, which of course he's going to go along with what Emma and the rest of the family says. He's the odd man out. He's not blood family, so he's going to have to kind of go by default. So there's that. Let's go to the next clip.
Okay.
She seemed really worn out.
Objection, speculation, Your Honor. Overruled.
Okay. She seemed very worn out.
Correct.
She had been working lifting boxes all day.
Correct.
At some point later in the evening, did you have a chance to visit with her?
Yes, when I brought the keys back.
Okay. And what did you observe at that point?
she was sitting on the couch, and she seemed very exhausted, like I said from earlier, but then was coughing pretty hard.
I mean, again, I'm sorry. It's just nothing that's alarming to me. You know, it's just, she was probably tired and coughing. She could have been allergies. It could have been this. It could have been that. It doesn't constitute something that makes you drop dead in the middle of the night. That's what I'm getting at. So let's keep going.
When you're describing Tammy on the couch, what was her positioning on the couch? Was she spread out or was she sitting up?
She was sitting up.
Okay. But was it very clear to you that obviously she was in some form of distress?
It appeared that she was sick and that she wasn't feeling well.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I'm on a damn sofa right now. So here's me. I'm sitting up right now. God, I'm not feeling good. I've been so busy today. So there's that. Imagine this. You come up in here. Oh my God, I feel so horrible. Oh my God, could someone go get this? Oh my God, I can't get up. I might need to go to the hospital. You see what I'm saying? You see, huge difference, right? Again, the fact that they're each getting up here and saying all this, I get they're trying to save Chad's butt. I get it. He essentially paid him off, if you ask me. You know what I'm saying? That's why they all got this money. But he also knew, right? And I'm kind of jumping ahead right here, but like the way that he gave all the kids like $8 grand, like all this money, he was like, here, you take this, you take this, you take this. This is somebody who knows they're not coming home, right? He's like handing over his possessions while he's in the back of the police car, which clearly he knows he's going away for a while. But it's just like, well, Chad, if you had nothing to do with it, why are we should be going home? I mean, somewhat soon, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, just like with this, they're each getting up here and just gassing the situation up like it was on death's bed. You know, and again, it's just like she's sitting up, she's coughing, you could tell she's in discomfort. It's normal to be in discomfort on some level. I mean, just think about as you get older, like I sit here and think, and again, I'm mid-40s. So it's like, I think of like, wow, I wonder what it would be like to sit and not be like, just sitting makes this part of my back hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just a certain level with that, again, I think Chad manipulated the situation and took advantage of it and kind of did his, like, teaching everyone. The proof is in the pudding, too. Lori was at the house the next day after Tammy Pat. I mean, come on, right? It really gets to me. Let's go to the next clip.
And at some point, how would you describe Garth's reaction?
Very shaken up.
Right. Did you have an occasion to observe Chad at that point?
I did.
And how would you describe Chad's reaction at that point?
I had never seen him the way I'd seen him that night, or that morning, sorry. Very just, he was wandering aimlessly, and just, he kept holding his head like this, and he kept asking, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I've never seen him in that state before.
Would you describe that as being distraught?
Yes.
Literally makes me want to come to the scream. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? I guess invite Lori over was part of that. What are we going to do? You know, he was trying to play it up like, oh my God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Hey, Lori, can you get over here? Oh my gosh. He was ready to do jumping jacks to that house. Somersaults, whatever you call them. Probably both. I've never seen him like this. I mean, they do not want him going away, right? They do not want to take any accountability. I think that they were all part of this belief system, this like way out there. I'm not talking about traditional LD. I know that they try and say, well, Chad's belief system was more like 100 years old. I've chatted with some people, and I'm not trying to be like, oh, well, I've chatted with a few of you in, email, so I know everything. I do not know anything about the LDS religion. I've learned it through this case, and I'm not trying to say it's the same thing there, but like learning by talking to people, this is what as LDS or Mormon, whatever, this is this stuff over here, right? And so when I say I'm just trying to make sure that people don't think that I'm trying to talk down about the religion, basically is what I'm getting at. I consider what Chad and all them are doing completely separate from this, right? I think that they were extracting bits and pieces from it and manipulating it to suit their own agenda. And so with Chad, I think that's exactly what's going on here. And I think that the kids in the family, the immediate family here, was all part of this crazy belief system he had, you know, and them talking about, oh, well, Chad goes by still 100 years old. From what I've gathered from y'all, it's like, this is not a thing, right? This is like a very left field, left turn off the beaten path stuff that this guy's talking about. And I just think they were all part of it, and they all are trying to basically protect their savior. You know, now I get it's also a bit of survival. Tammy's gone. We don't, whatever we have to do to keep dad out of prison. I mean, I get that to a degree, but when you see the absolute murder and mayhem that went on around, and then their indifference to it, and when I say there, I'm talking the children, their spouses, I'm just like, huh? The children we've heard from, at least, like, kind of intimately involved with this. I can't speak for all of them, but I'm mostly speaking, you know, Garth, Emma, this gentleman. It's very concerning.
And in regards to the red shed, was that something you required a key to get into?
No.
How would you describe access to the red shed?
So it was on the west end of it. There's a garage door. Simply you turn the handle and pull up the door.
Okay. Was that ever locked?
No.
Was it ever at times when it was left open for longer extended periods of time?
Yes.
Was that unusual for the door to be down, or was it more usual for the door to be opened?
It was more so down, but it was never locked.
Okay. So someone could get access.
Yep. And on the east side of it, there's another door that also was easy to access.
Right. And that was never locked?
Nope.
Okay.
Now, you see what Pryor's trying to do here. And again, I say this in every video, but if this is the first time you're watching me, I have no problem with the defense attorney. We'd all want a defense attorney poking holes in every little last bit they could, right? It's what their job is. You know, yes, there's a bias that I hold. I'm sure a lot of us can feel the same way because, you know, of the emotional dynamic to it. So I'm not trying to sit here and say that, oh, well, he shouldn't be up there saying anything. You know, I get he's doing his job. And I get that I have a bias towards it. So there's that. Now, that being said, what he's doing here, 100% get it, 100% good tactic. Anybody, if this was online, anybody could get in there. And we'll hear in a moment, nobody, if you went to this area, you don't know who's back there in the pasture, aka the back damn yard. Okay, let's just call it what it is, right? As if they're talking about 3 acres away or something. But you know, good tactic for him, but it's not cutting it at all. And we'll hear the state kind of dismantle this a little bit. Yeah, but again, you can see him playing into it. Now, at one point, Pryor will say, and I believe it was at the beginning of this, talking about, you know, oh, no, we met up to go over this and whatnot, you know, and he's like, no, I didn't tell you what to say. No. And I'm sure Pryor did not tell him, but they're going to review evidence and whatnot, right? So this should not be a surprise, most of this stuff. And that goes for any witness. I mean, most of the time they're going to meet up to kind of go over like, hey, this is the gist of what's going on, right? So, but with this gentleman specifically, I just feel like he has an agenda, right? And that agenda is, number one, to keep Chad out of prison. Number two, that he has an issue with authority, plain and damn simple. And I don't trust what comes out of his mouth because that issue with authority overrides the truth, if that makes sense.
If someone was back in the red shed and someone else was standing in front of the house, would there be a visual way to see that they were in the red shed?
On the very back end of it?
From Salem Road, yeah.
No.
So it wasn't visibly able to see if someone was back there?
No.
Again, good point. Anyone could be back there. Even Lori and Alex. But we've heard so much testimony from other stuff that I'm just like, look, you can't convince me that just Lori or just Alex was back there, right? At all. No matter what you can call it a pasture, you can call it a football field. There were 2 children buried in the ground very meticulously of a man who wrote an entire book, a very bad book that we've covered here, about being a gravedigger. Okay, you literally can't write this up, right? This is a fiction story. You'd be like, it's too unbelievable, right? What is it? Truth is stranger than fiction? That's exactly what's going on here, okay? But again, I get why Pryor's bringing these points up. Note taken.
Do you know whether or not from that long driveway behind the house, there could be access out to the field?
There are 2 points of access from that point.
Okay, and what are the 2 points of access from the long driveway?
directly from the long driveway heading north, there's 2 cattle gates that open like this. And then to the east, there's another set of cattle gates.
So it would not be impossible for a vehicle off of the long driveway to drive back into the pasture. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Pasture, field, key words here. Again, I get why he's doing it. He is trying to create this distance. Because you don't want to be like, when you say backyard, what you envision is somebody walking outside, it's like, bam, there's your backyard. Which, I'm sorry, call it a pasture or a field. It is what it is. Like I've told you before here, if we're at my house, I have acreage. And probably about the same. I think it's like, they have about 5 acres, so probably about the same. Yes, so in my mind, I'm thinking, now granted this is a different layout, but I'm like, oh yeah, there's areas in the property where you wouldn't know if somebody's there, right? But number one, I have like actual woods, okay? And I'm just trying to like think through terms of like my own lens and familiarity of my own situation and spaces and stuff. Chad's place isn't like that. It's like, I mean, it is a pasture. It's like a field. So this whole notion that, oh, you can't see anybody and oh, well, this or that. I'm not buying that. Now, nonetheless, you just get used to your surroundings. Even being here, well, not here, I say here, but you know what I'm saying when I'm home. You get used to it. You get used to, well, why is that tree like that? You know what I'm saying? Like you keep your eye out for stuff and it's like, oh, this is, you know what I mean? Like you just notice things, like you have to, right? And so that's where I'm just like, no, I'm sorry, I don't believe this, especially with the pet cemetery thing. I'm not buying this at all, that he was just oblivious. And then two, even if you're going on that notion, you just go back to that videotape where Chad is talking to his daughter when he's in the backseat of the car and there's just no, you know, oh, there's bodies of, okay, you know, here, take all my stuff. I'm probably not coming home. What do you say about that? I mean, like, what are you trying to see your frame? I mean, that's the thing that blows my mind. You know, and this is where I feel like there's a cognitive dissonance or whatever that word is. Right now, I'm no therapist, but with the immediate kids and their spouses and stuff, that's just like, what? How are you excusing this away? Like, do you really think the police set them up, or that Lori or Alex like completely did this without your dad's knowledge? I think it's more protecting than it is coming to terms with reality.
Right. Are you aware of where the bodies of J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan were found?
Yes.
Where were they found?
One was in the, JJ was found in the back part of the property closer to the pond. And then Tylee was found to the south of that.
Okay, and would access be available through that gate off of the long driveway to those locations?
Yes.
And if someone were to use that back gate and drive down the long driveway, are they necessarily visible from the main road, Salem Highway?
While driving to there?
No, if someone were parked on front of the house on Salem Highway, would they be visible to that back gate, observing anybody?
No.
It's a spot where you wouldn't be visible. Is that correct?
Correct.
Again, 100% see where he's going with this. And great tactic. It's something to be brought up. I mean, it really is. I mean, I can't fault him for that at all, right? But as we'll hear, the state will kind of dismantle this very quickly when they get up there to redirect or, you know, question the guy in the stand. Because it's true. There could be anybody back there. Anybody, for that matter. It doesn't just exclude because of that Chad, right? I'll say it 100,000 times, you can't come up with an excuse for 2 children's bodies being in your backyard. Not when all these events are surrounding here. If Chad had come forward talking about, I'm basically thinking of it, I can't remember her name, but Susan Smith, who drowned the children in her car because she wanted to be with that guy, and that guy's like, I just told this chick I don't want to be with her. Like, you know what I'm saying? If this is a scenario like that, there would be a little bit more leeway. And it'd be a little bit like, oh, so yeah, Lori was trying to frame him maybe, because then it's like, why would she put them in his backyard? You know what I mean? Like, that part doesn't make sense. It's almost like they didn't think through. You know, oh, they were trying to protect him. Well, if that's the case, they had no problem taking everybody else out, so why not him? You know, they really painted themselves in a corner with this situation. But again, the defense can only work with so much. I mean, look at the story and the person that Pryor has to work with. I mean, come on.
I have a note here that talks about officers driving by your house and Mr. Daybell's house quite regularly. Do you recall that?
Yes. Leading up to and even after Chad was arrested, I would frequently see Detective Hermosillo in his detective vehicle driving up and down our property. I mean, not our property, but up and down the 200 North Road
And when you say frequently, what would you describe as frequently?
several times a week.
This part right here really cooks my grits. And let me tell you what, when the state gets up here, they're going to ask all the questions that I think most of us are probably going through our minds right now, because it is infuriating to listen to this. So we'll just cover a couple of things that very quickly come to me. This whole thing that the family has with the cops, I understand in their world, the cops are taking their father away from them. And I would have way more empathy towards that if it looked like a case of, what do you call it, wrongful conviction. I know he hasn't been convicted at this point, but you know what I'm saying? Like there was all this evidence saying, why are the cops harassing them? Why are the cops harassing them? Bodies were found on the property. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's of course they're going to ride by it. You know, of course they're going to continue. They probably still are. You see on social media with all this kind of stuff, people set up memorials, people go by the property. This is constantly going on. I can understand if you were more like, look, I understand the cops and all that, but it's a lot, because every time somebody rides by, we're just reminded of the horror of this, that, the other. But they're coming at it from a way of like, they're annoyed, right? They're annoyed at the police. I might even make that the title of this video, right? Because that's the part that like really ticks me off the most about this, is how annoyed this guy, and he'll say in a minute, your mouth's going to be on the floor, the way he says about the cops. You know, and I'm just sitting here and I'm like, dude, of course, how do you think they're going to act? Why? It's more of a red flag that they have this attitude about the cops, because it makes me think, well, what else? Of course you would cover for him if you feel this way towards authority that haven't done, I mean, these people aren't harassing you for no reason. And they're not harassing you. That's a bad word for me to use. They're driving by. They're keeping an eye on things. If anything, if I were them, I would be like, oh, thank God. Because let's be honest, right? And he'll talk in a second about, you know, people being judged in town. I would kind of want extra, I don't know what you call it, like when you call the cops, like, hey, could you do more like ride-bys in my neighborhood or whatever? It might be called just that. Because look, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, people might want to hurt them, you know, people might want to like, just even people coming by and just being, you know, stalkerish because it's like, you know, out there, whatever. But people might want to do bad things to them. People are going to feel a certain way about what their dad allegedly did, whatever, in their role and, you know, just their attitudes, I guess you could say. So it would almost be like, oh, well, thank God they're riding by, they're keeping an eye on us. But they don't have that attitude at all, right? It's completely opposite.
And at some point, did you gain, at least from your perspective, did you get a sense that people were judging the facts of what was going on with Chad?
Yes.
And what did you base that on?
The setting in the Sunday school, it was pretty clear. A lot of dirty looks. And then on Facebook, the deputy prosecuting attorney for Fremont County at the time had made a pretty nasty post about it.
Okay, and you read that post.
I did.
So in other words, aside from also the church making comments, it was your impression that at least one government official was also making comments.
Correct.
Not the government official. I love Pryor is a drama queen. Okay, y'all. If you watch the Alec Murdaugh trial, old Pooh, the attorney for what's his name, or one of the attorneys, drama queen. Loved every second of it. Right, drama queen right here too. Like, oh, the government. Now, I don't remember the post that was made, so if you do, and like you can add context in the comment section about like, oh yeah, they should have said that post or whatever. I mean, I get that, right? I'm just kind of being facetious here right now, but I could have told, honey, listen, let me tell you this much. If I was them, I would have found a new church. I would have changed my last name, dyed my hair, and found a new church about 100 miles away. You already know what the whispers were going on in that church. Most churches are going to be nasty with you, talking about, did you see what they were doing? You know, something like this, even before he's found guilty. Again, honey, you can try and explain it all you want to. There were 2 children's bodies found in your father's backyard. Your father had his mistress, his Lori, married in what I mean, just right after this. That alone is going to get you some looks at church, okay? Period. End of story. So the fact that they were, that's ballsy right there. The fact they were still even willing to go to the church. It's like, oh, it became very apparent. I bet so. Can't believe you went back, honestly. I mean, and it's unfortunate because they didn't do anything. I get that, right? I mean, but this is how people like Chad victimize numerous people. Now, this next clip that we're going to watch is in regard to talking about a competition that was going on between this gentleman's parents and Tammy. Specifically his father. He's going to explain it. But if you've been watching the trial, there's some testimony that Tammy was taking her arm and kind of doing like this to create, like with your little thing here, your Fitbit, your watch, your step, your counter, and doing that. So this is the explanation. So they're going to be talking about the fact that there is this like competition, kind of jealousy thing going on from Tammy. Listen to how he talks about Tammy in these next clips here. This part to me was very eye-opening.
Emma and her siblings, and even Tammy would recognize that she was doing it for that purpose.
To win.
To win, yep.
And you said the family was in on this joke. What about Ed and Charlene? Were they in on this joke?
They didn't know that she was doing it at the time. That she was just moving her wrist like this.
Competing against your father.
Yep.
It was important to her, from your perspective, what you observed, to beat your father in this Fitbit competition. Is that right?
Yes, because at that time, my dad had begun to lose weight and was beginning to run and exercise a lot. And so it was very important for him to win. And I sensed a bit of jealousy from, because it wasn't just my dad, my mom as well, but that was doing really well. And I had sensed a bit of jealousy, and even had recognized that Tammy was a bit jealous to see that.
Okay, so you heard what I said earlier. So there's the context. There's this competition. Basically, everybody's in on it. They know Tammy's doing this thing to basically cheat, to try and beat him. But when he says, I sense, my dad was doing, my mom, they were doing really well, but I sense this jealousy from Tammy. I just feel like I get this vision, and I'm not trying to sound like Chad Daybell, and I shouldn't even say vision, but like a feeling, that it was almost like they all just didn't like her, right? I mean, because like, imagine saying, like, even if you were thinking that, like, this is a woman who's passed, right? Your mother-in-law, your mother, your wife, your spouse, whatever the relationship is, they all just kind of talk down about her. Like, they just, very indifferent. Yeah, she was really jealous towards him, so she was like cheating to do this. It was like really important to her. She's a very competitive person. Yeah, so was my dad, but yeah, she was cheating. It was like a joke, but yeah, she was jealous of him doing well. I mean, that's okay. Yeah, now, maybe she was, right? I don't know them, right? I don't know Tammy. I don't know the kids. I don't know him. Like, I wasn't there at their family functions. But it had that energy to it. And so that's where I feel like, and I understand people can be two different things at one time, but it's like you hear from other people that aren't of this little clique. And they talk about Tammy just being this nice, hard-working, family-devoted woman. Now, again, I'm not behind closed doors, so I can't say what goes on. But it's just it's like two different people, two different versions. And hey, maybe that was the case. I don't know. But to hear them each get up here and just talk about her and the tone as well. There's something about the tone of it that just, it doesn't feel right. It's like there was a disdain for her from this whole crowd. Okay, now we're going to listen to the defense, or I'm sorry, the state get up here and go back. They're going to be talking about a police report. And this gentleman is basically saying, like, no, what they put in there was it's not true, right? This is where some of, like, honestly, my mouth was on the ground. I'm not going to lie, y'all. My mouth was on the ground over this testimony because I was like, what? Again, does not make them look good at all, but let's listen to it. You decide for yourself.
So then it's your testimony that Deputy Cannon, if he put that in his report, has it wrong. Is that fair?
That is absolutely fair.
So he has inaccurate information.
That is true.
And I think you tried to explain that away somewhat yesterday by the fact that,
Judge, I'm going to object to the characterization, explaining away.
Sustained.
you don't disagree that yesterday on this point, you had explained that when you had met with Deputy Cannon in the roadway, you were quick to give him information because you wanted him to go search.
Correct.
So isn't it possible that whatever you were relaying to Deputy Cannon in that quick interaction, One reason for the discrepancy could be he misunderstood what you were saying.
Possible, but very unlikely.
So you believe he was intentionally inaccurate.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, right there. That's okay. Where do you go from there? I believe the cop was intentionally inaccurate. I believe the cop lied on purpose, is basically what you're saying. If your motive is to keep Chad out of prison or to make things look good, like literally, this is the last thing you should be saying, because that tells me, and again, if the evidence backed up that all these cops had this story and they were all trying to do something against him, this is way more understandable, and by all means say it, right? You know what I mean? Like, of course, I'm not trying to say it. We've seen this happen in cases, okay? So I'm not trying to sit here and be like, oh, well, just because it's a police officer, it's that. These police officers have not shown this behavior, right? These seem like, I mean, we've kind of gotten to know them through this case, as much as you can. If you're like me, just watching from the sofa or whatever, however you're watching. I've not seen any of this vibe that they're going on about. That they're just these, tainted cops and, lying about this and harassing them and doing that. You're feeling harassed because it's almost like you have something to hide, right? I mean, that's just that's the vibe I get. And I'm not trying to accuse them of having something to do with it. But it's just, again, it doesn't make sense. For him to make a statement like that is huge. To me, that completely discredits all of his testimony. Because it shows such a bias for me that it's just like, even no matter what you listen to, it's like, this guy is so biased against the cops, and it gets worse here in a minute, that if I was the jury, I would have to discredit much of what he was saying, because I was like, I can't believe this guy. Like, this guy's main objective is getting back to the police officers.
With respect to what you said yesterday about Tammy never having described this paintball gun as anything but a paintball gun, you did testify to that, yes?
Yep.
Isn't it possible that you simply could have been mistaken about Tammy's full description of what happened as you were overhearing and listening to a conversation that she was having with your wife?
Due to the fact that it was on speakerphone, I don't think so.
Well, you said a second ago that it still could have been possible that, given the nature of the situation, Deputy Cannon could have been confused by your explanation to him, correct? You just said that.
Yes, but I was also very clear in what I explained to him.
But you don't believe that you're beyond having that same kind of miscommunication if that did occur?
No, based off of the fact that both my wife and I had the same understanding.
Now, here's the thing. Second red flag. When you're not willing to admit, that you could potentially be wrong. Everybody else could potentially be wrong or intentionally wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, make a mistake or intentionally made a mistake. You know what I mean? But not me. No, I heard it. No. Y'all, at any point, this is like such a red flag to me with people in just personal life, walks in life, whatever. We're all capable of mistakes. I'm talking like even like basic stuff like this, right? Like, oh, I thought I wrote that down and didn't do it. Like, oh, I left the milk out. That's my favorite analogy to use for things here. Things of this nature. So, no, I didn't do that. You've already stated, now this is like the next morning that the testimony picked up. So you already stated the day before about you don't believe the cops, basically. You think they're making intentional, inaccurate information. Now you're sitting here saying like, well, no, I wouldn't have misheard that. I wouldn't have missaid that. Again, it's just like, yeah, this guy, I'm not buying his testimony. I'm not buying it. It's completely biased.
The fifth entry that's dated June 9th. Will you look at that, please?
Yep.
And what is that reflecting?
Deposit into my checking account.
For what amount?
$8,000.
And who made that deposit?
I am not exactly sure.
You're not aware if that would have came from Chad Daybell?
Well, I know we got $8,000, but I wasn't sure. It just said $8,000. So
you don't disagree that this was $8,000 that came from Chad Daybell?
No.
Okay. You don't disagree?
No, I don't disagree.
Okay. Sure, Jan. Gets all for. Did it come from Chad or not, buddy? Now the other kids got the same amount of money. Prior will establish, did so-and-so get 8,000? Did so-and-so get 8,000? So, we get this. But again, the fact that he got all jumbled up talking about, I don't know who it came from. I wasn't sure if it came from here. You know where that came from. Why? get shady about it. It just makes all your testimony that much more unbelievable.
And that occurred, I'm done, Your Honor. That occurred, again, the day he was arrested.
Yep.
So to be clear, Chad Daybell in December 2019 gave you his truck.
Yep.
Okay. And then later in June 9th, when he's arrested, he deposited $8,000 into your account.
Yep.
Correct. And then he had you guys move into his house, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And were you aware that he also gave Emma $9,000 in cash that day?
Yes.
Okay. So he gave you roughly $17,000 in cash, correct? Had given you one of his vehicles, correct?
Yep.
And gave you a place to live, correct?
Yep.
Now, for me, I'm just like, that just shows guilt even more. Why give all your stuff away like that? And again, I get, you could probably be like, I'm going away for a minute to get this sorted if you were innocent. Like, I get that part. So I'm being a little bit dramatic, but nonetheless, I mean, that's a lot to give. So, you know, he knew. I mean, he knew the second they showed up, he knew what was going on. You can listen to the phone calls between he and Lori. And I'm not talking about those new ones that were just released, but remember the phone calls that they played, especially when he was on the phone with her while they were at the house search and stuff. You could hear it in his voice. It was like, oh, the number's up and he knows this. And it's going down. And he's yelling, timber.
Now, have you ever met JJ and Tylee's mother?
Lori Valla?
Yes.
No. I mean, yes, sorry. I went back to the thing you were talking about, them in particular. Yes, I've met Lori.
Okay. And isn't it true that the first day you met Lori was the day after Tammy's funeral at Chad's house?
Yes.
So she came to Chad's house and that's where the family met her.
Yes.
And that was it the immediate day after her funeral?
I don't recall the exact day, if it was the immediate day after, but it was shortly after, yes.
Yeah, and you testified to that effectively. That was the day after.
Wow. I mean, that right there is such a red flag. Chad's mother will testify that. I mean, everybody that was around testified to this of just kind of being like, what? You know, that right there, even imagine, you've seen this happen before, where something happens to a spouse and somebody's legitimately like with another person in that short amount of time, but say murder is not involved, stuff like that. It's still very red flaggy behavior. Like, how long have you been going out, or what's been going on? And now this situation, the fact that you have all these, bodies piling up, and then he's with Lori, again, but it sounds like they all want to explain it away. I think they were all under her spell too.
And that area was in the general area that accessed both the pond and the fire pit.
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. Counsel's testifying.
Sustained.
Didn't you testify yesterday that access point was in the general area of the pond and the fire pit?
Yes.
So then you wouldn't disagree that whomever, whether it was Chad or somebody else.
Judge, objection calls for speculation.
On that second part of the question, I will sustain that.
Okay. You wouldn't disagree that anybody who buried those children could have used that driveway and have done so outside the visibility of the roadway, correct?
From the Salem Highway, no. They would not have been able to.
So, thank you. This is what I'm talking about. It's like, well, yes, my prior brought up a good point that, hey, you can't see this and somebody could be back there, they're back there. Yes, absolutely. So then that also applies to Chad too. I mean, you have to look at both sides of it. Again, I get Pryor's doing his job and bringing this up, but all this stuff is easily shot down. And I think that's what happened. I think Alex and Chad were back there and they knew that they could kind of do it in plain sight, if you will, but also going undetected. And that's just the whole aspect to it. The witnesses getting up here, his kids, their spouses, they're not helping the case at all. If they think it's helping, to me, it's just solidified the state's case even more.
You wouldn't disagree that for law enforcement to drive back and forth by this property, that they may have suspected the bodies were, and in fact found the bodies there. That wouldn't necessarily be unusual, would it?
Perhaps no. However, this was even after the bodies were taken out, that he would slowly drive by the property.
And to that point, so you would disagree that a detective who discovers bodies on a property, arrests somebody from the property, might have a surveillance or investigative interest in continuing to drive by the property to identify if someone else was coming back to the property after the bodies had removed. You don't disagree with that, do you?
I don't see the reason for it.
You're not a law enforcement officer, are you?
Absolutely not. I would rather choose any other profession.
Okay.
He thought he ate with that right there. He thought he ate left no crumbs. That right there, that emotional outburst on the stand, and I would choose any other profession. He follows it up again here in a second. We'll hear it. Again, if I was Pryor, I would have been crawling under my desk like, dude, they are letting the bizarreness shine through these little moments. Emma, Garth, him. They're letting it shine through. And again, that's where if I was a jury, I'd be sitting over there like, again, I just come back down to this. Oh, well, no, it was after. Now, he's going to follow up the state in a second, but I just come back, and so I don't want to say anything about what he's going to say until after he says it, but I keep coming back to this where my first thought would have been like, oh, thank God we have more cops in the road, because you can't tell me that tons of people don't drive by for like morbid curiosity. So it would be nice to know that the detectives are driving by, that maybe some extra patrol, whatever you call that, is going by, but instead they're upset about it. They feel they're harassed about it. They feel this and that. And it's like, that just tells me y'all completely do not think for a second that your father-in-law, however they're related, is not guilty of any of this. I mean, that's my only assumption.
But you don't disagree that a law enforcement officer who found bodies on the property might want to continue to observe that property to see if anything else suspicious occurred there at the property?
I don't see the reason for him returning.
Do you think finding bodies on a property is a big deal?
Judge, I'm going to object. It's been asked and answered at least a couple of times.
Sustained.
Asked and answered. I love asked and answered. That one gets said a lot during this trial, right? Sustained. But again, now he's getting ready to go into the secondary part of it. But the gentleman does not even want to give the state the chance to even consider, like, so you don't think it would be normal for them to keep driving by? No, I don't see why. That's so bizarre to me. That just, again, shows the bias. And why do you have a bias in this case? It's not like there was no evidence, nothing shady going on. I mean, if anything, I'm like, y'all should be, honestly thanking the Lord that you're all alive still and didn't get caught up in Lori and Chad's stuff.
When Detective Firmacio was driving by the property, did he ever make contact with you?
No.
Were you aware that some kind of memorial had been placed on that property relative to Tylee and JJ?
Yes, but the slow driving by wasn't just on 200 North. It was also on Salem Highway.
You don't disagree that for a law enforcement officer to find two children buried on a property would be a traumatic event, do you?
I don't disagree. However, I don't understand why during working hours we would need to return and visit the memorial.
So that's not understandable to you how a law enforcement officer might have a traumatic experience and go back and visit the property.
I didn't say that.
So then you agreed it could be.
Yes.
I mean, y'all, we're talking sketchy answers, sketchy behavior. That whole thing where it's like, I mean, basically the state's trying to say, this is traumatic. He could be going back to visit, like, just for that sake of, like, processing. I don't see why. I mean, this is a cold group of people, okay? And I just felt like overall, they have this indifference towards the victims, the real victims. They look at themselves like victims. It's the way of the energy it gives. They have this indifference and almost anger and resentment towards these victims for being victims. I'm just like, and this whole thing with Tammy, I'm sorry. I mean, maybe they truly believe that nothing was wrong with her, but I just feel like the evidence doesn't show that. The evidence shows that nothing was really wrong with her, other than being at the wrong place at the wrong time around the wrong people, right? Because even in her afterlife, meaning like now she's gone, but her life is continuing on, like here in the legal system, as a victim and, allegedly right now, of course, of Chad and Lori and them and whatnot. It just blows my mind how they speak of her and act towards her. It blows my mind. And that there's no consideration for, well, maybe this over here. I just find it absolutely bizarre and heartbreaking. So, that being said, again, overall thoughts here. Everyone in this family and like this side, like, Chad's kids, all that, and the ones that I'm seeing and I've commented on this channel so far, the energy level is off. There's something just not right about it. Now, again, I'm not a shrink, I'm not any of that stuff, so I'm not making any kind of diagnosis. I'm not making any kind of factual statement. These are just my opinions, right? I don't know these people. I could not know what's going on behind the scenes. But just to hear the way they speak of Tammy, it seems very off-putting. And then just in general, this disdain for authorities, for cops, it makes me not trust what they're saying, because it makes me feel like that agenda takes precedence over everything else. So that's it. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. Roscoe has been, I don't know if you can see him in this video, but he's been sleeping. He's started to stir. And just enough to ask for y'all to throw some couches and sofas down there in the comment section so that we'll have a little place to meander and I can hold him and give him kisses. And we can talk about this case and all the other crazy cases we talk about on the channel. And until we go down there and do all that, we'll see y'all soon. Yo, I want to give one more shout out and thank you to Merge Dragons for number one, the hours of gameplay that I've enjoyed it through. But number two, for working with me on this video. Their link is in the description. Go ahead, give it a try. You're going to love it. I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video. And also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels. Everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now, don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. Also, if you're looking for merch, be sure to check out my Teespring store. I'll put that up here. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Roscoe on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.